Hi dear students and friends, welcome to Sundar in Light class. This is the trial class. Okay, let us learn, brush up some literary terms and what is literature and so on and so forth in this class. As we all know that English is a global language. It's using everywhere in the world. And with respect to the literature, what is the term literature means? As a literature student, you should know what is meant by literature. Here, literature is called as a best thoughts of an author in a best manner. That means in a best manner, author, that means the poet who should express his best thoughts. Then only we call it him as a poet or author. So literature means the best thoughts of an author in a best manner. Let us move on to that. In literature, it has generally two parts. That means the basic parts. These are very first one, content and then form. These are our basic elements which constitute form literature. Content, as you all know, that it is nothing but expressions of an author in a best manner. It is most important. You should know the content as a literature student. When we come to the form means the types, various forms of literature elements. Which are they? Let us we know one after another. Very first one, poetry, you know that, and then another form called drama, and next fiction and non-fiction. All these four elements constitute to form various forms of that means literature. And then what's the use of this literature means? Generally literature is as we all know, the best thoughts of an author in a best manner. It expresses how human thoughts gradually evolved down the ages. This is most important. Their experience and ups and downs we come to know only when we get into literature. Being a literature student, you must know some genres and forms. Literature has a work of art, just like a drawing, painting. Like this, literature is also a form of work of art, and we should know with respect to the background literature. Being a literature student, we should know the background of this literature, how it evolves down the ages, and we must have adequate knowledge of literary forms, and then only we can understand what is meant by literature, and then we can move into the deep. Now, when we come to the various forms of literature, very first and foremost, poetry. You know that poetry is considered as the earliest literary forms to have evolved. This is the earliest form compared to the drama and other aspects, fiction and non-fiction. Poetry is the earliest one. And then poetry usually it origin in prehistoric times. And then in olden days, according to poetry, how it evolves, in olden days, singing accompanied by musical instruments, by using some musical instrument, as we all know that in our Kannada literature also we come across the same thing. By singing accompanied by musical instrument, as usually in the oral form. And then as the time went on, oral form and then gradually turns into a written form, as we now we are utilizing this one. And then earliest poems we mentioned Epic of Gilgamesh. Have you heard the Gilgamesh, a Sumerian contemporary and ancient Sumerian poem? Epic of Gilgamesh is known as earliest poems in the poetic form only. And then it's all about 1800 BC, and then you may, being Indian, you must know Indian Vedas also 1700 to 1100 BC we come across it in the form of poetical form. And then these forms of poems, there was no written form in those periods, so they passed down generation to generation orally from one generation to another generation. until the development of writing. And poetry we generally considered as a form of art, as I said earlier. Rapid development in both language and technology. As the time goes up, development both in language form and then different technology. In the upcoming classes we come to know how they evolve. And then let us we know the definition of poetry. What is meant by poetry? Generally, according to the Hudson, poetry is nothing but interpretation of life. It's just a life interpretation. How is life? Like this interpretation of life through imagination and feeling. Because poetry, in the poetry, imagination, feelings are very much important. Like this interpretation of life through imagination and feeling is called poetry, according to Hudson. And then, according to Thomas Carlyle also, it's nothing but musical thought which has musical components. That's why poetry is somehow singing. And then when you come to the Edgar Allan Poe, he opined that the rhythmic creation of beauty is also called as poetry. And how the word origin, how the poetry, the word origin, it's a Greek word that means poetics. It means a creator. Creator means here the poet is the creator who create these forms. And then creator he interprets life, and then in this poem he expresses feelings, joys and sorrows which he come across in his life or in otherwise other lives also. And then how poetry and prose are different from each other. In poetry there is a presence of meter and rhythm and rhyme. These three elements are very much constituent to my poetry. These three elements are lacking. They might be lacking in prose. That's why poetry is most considered as a highest form. Let us move on further. In poetry, sound and rhythm of poetry, which attracts the generally people or those who are listening to this one, which attracts and guide the people. This is the one element. And about the meter, it lifts us, our soul, ordinary world of everything experience, what we everyday experience, what we experience in our day-to-day life. It gives in another different dimensions to that everyday life. It lifts us, our soul, by its meter, and it gives some aesthetic pleasure by which we can derive some divine power. When we listening to the song, we felt thrilled. And then words in a rhythmical manner, the words are not in ordinary manner like as you can see in the prose, but in the poem it has some rhyme quality. Just like if write a poem like this, twinkle twinkle little star, you can just write it down on the page and then you can just go through that one without knowing that musical quality. It seems to be not attractive. When we add something to that poem, that means lines, words, twinkle twinkle little star, how I wonder what you are, like this. When you sing these words, that means the words are converted into a voice tones, and it gives some attractive quality. That is the power of poetry. Now, what's the difference between poet and scientist? All in all, both of them, that means poet and the scientist, both deal with the nature. Their approaches are different. Both of them are deal with the nature, work with the nature, investigate something in the nature. Their approaches are different. In science, they use fact and figures to emphasize what they have invent. But while in poetry, uses imagination as a tool, and that is what we call it as in poetic truth. This is the major difference between poet and the scientist. And then now, what is meant by poetic license? That means the license is it's like a freedom, as you know that freedom taken by a poet in a language. Through that language, syntax, extract, through these tools, that means language and syntax, he derive freedom, and then he expresses feelings, thought and emotions to the readers. Let us we move on to the classification of poetry. There are two types of poetry are there. First and foremost, objective poetry, and the second one is the subjective poetry. What is meant by objective poetry? Objective poetry means it is detached from writing. That means those who compose this poem is generally, that means the poet or the author, detached from writing. That means in impersonal manner. He was not involved in that poem. That though he used to wrote this poem, but is completely removed from that poem. That is called impersonal manner. And the actions and the passions of other people is supposed to express, but he completely removed from that scene. This kind of poetry is called as objective poetry. This is older one compared to the subjective poetry. It's the beginning. Objective poetry we can see not yet learned to read and write. In those days, the people, they don't know how to read and write. In those days, this objective kind of poetry was composed. When we come to the subjective poetry, it reflects the poet's own personal feelings and experiences. What he thought and now, what he experienced personally, is completely immersed as one of the uh, inhabitants. That means a part and parcel of the poem. It reflects the poet's own feelings, not the others. In this way, it is called as subjective poetry. In much later period, we can see this kind of subjective poetry. It gives importance to thought and feelings of the author, of the composer, of the poet. Let us we move on to the different forms of poetry. There are, as you know, that two types of poetry are there: objective poetry and then subjective poetry. In objective poetry, what are the elements you can come across? In objective poetry, you can see ballad, epic, metrical romance, dramatic monologue, and limerick. You can see in the next classes we all we will come to know that what is meant by ballad, epic, and with the examples, so on and so forth. Now itself you just note down this one. Objective poetry in ballad. What is meant by ballad? You can see the what you call in Kannada lavani. In the Scottish ballad, for example, the demon lover, you can heard this one, and the rhyme of the ancient mariner by St. Coleridge. These are all the examples of ballad. And then when you come to the epic, you might have heard this one, Odyssey and Iliad by Omar, and then Ramayana, Mahabharata. These are all epic, which are comes under objective poetry. And then move on to the metrical romance. A red rose by Robert Burns. These poems comes under this category. And then you well known with the dramatic monologue, the Lotus Letters by Alfred Lord Tennyson, and for example, My Lost Stitches by Robert Browning. These are all comes under dramatic monologue. And then limerick, there will be small boy of Quebec. It was written by Rudyard Kipling. These are all comes under objective poetry. Let us we get familiar with subjective poetry. In the subjective poetry lyric, you can see the example Go Lovely Rose by Edwin Dweller, and take the example. And another one for the ode Leaves of Grasses by you might have heard American poet Walt Whitman. And then LG written in a country churchyard by Thomas Gray. And then idyll, for the subjective poetry idyll example, Human Head by Oscar Wilde. And then move on to the sonnet. You are well familiar with this one, sonnets by William Shakespeare, and then other G.M. Hopkins, like this. And then when we come to the epistles, for example, epistles to Arbuthnot by Alexander Pope. These are all some types of poetry you should know. Before moving deep into the literature, you should know these technical terms and then examples, and then only you will be able to learn all the things. As the time went on, we will learn all those things in upcoming classes. Thank you, one and all.